we are going to start a new topic, and the topic name is going to be screens. And let me choose this particular project for today's example, and quickly I want to add the development issue type even to the Suresh project. Let's do that real quick so that even we feel like it was revised in today's session as well. Alright, I want to keep this page as it is, and I want to open a duplicate tab, and then from any page, it might be from the project page or it might be from the home page, I want to add a new issue type called development to Suresh project. So only the Jira admins will be able to get into this particular option called issues, not any other people. So let me click on issues. We already landed on the issue types page. We do not want to create the development issue type again. Always remember, whenever we get a new request requesting for a new issue type, we should not directly click on add issue type. Each and every time we should search whether that particular issue type has already been created earlier by any Jira admin or not. If we do not find that option, or maybe if we do not find that issue type, we can go ahead and create for the very first time. Since the development issue type has already been created by someone in the earlier days, we find it, so we can directly add this particular, or we can directly map this particular issue type to the Suresh project. So coming back to the Suresh project, I can see the issue type scheme heading. So let me take the copy of the name and let me come back to the global level. So right under the issue types, we do have an option called issue type schemes. And here is the place we can search for the issue type scheme that Suresh project is currently using. And then by clicking on the three dots and by clicking on the edit button, we will be able to map the development issue type into the project. And then let's save the settings. Alright, now we have successfully added the new issue type called development, and it is going to be present in the Suresh project going forward. As I can see, development. Alright, let me open the Excel real quick for the reference. Now, as part of today's topic, we are going to discuss about the screens, right? So screen is nothing but an arrangement of fields. Whenever we click on the create button, whatever that we see here, we can call it as create issue screen. Under every project, we do have multiple issue types. So based upon the issue type, we will be getting the appropriate screens where we can see the fields, and we can completely arrange or customize in the order that we want. So a screen is an arrangement of fields. That is going to be the definition. And the second point, each issue type, it might be epic, it might be story, or even it might be development issue type. So each issue type will have its own screen, which means not a different screen, each and every issue type based upon how we have customized. Now maybe for epic story task, I want to keep 5 fields on the screen. So each and every time that we select the appropriate issue type, based upon what screen and what fields that we have on the screen that was configured in the backend, will be displayed here. And even the last point that we have discussed, for example, if we added a new issue type called development and we do not create any screen for that, so in that cases, by default, whatever the new issue type, it might be development, it will take one of the default screen given by Jira. So whatever the fields that was listed on the default screen will be applied, or maybe will be mapped to the development issue type, the new issue type that was created in the project. So anytime anybody choose the development project, by default it was populating some screen where we can see the fields like summary, components, attachments, and few other. And it is not that much mandatory to know what are the use cases of all the fields at the moment, But always remember that there are few important fields that we have to keep on the create issue screen, and probably it will be used by almost all the organizations. And no matter what fields we have or what fields we do not have, there is one important field, summary. As I can see, there is a required mark on it, which means while we are creating an issue and if we do not choose any value in this particular field, the issue will not be created. Because the summary is mandatory, which means we have to fill in any details before we create the issue. So if we want to create a new field, new screen, and if we want to add some 5 fields onto it, for sure the summary is mandatory, and by any chance we cannot make it unmandatory. And then the important fields that I want to talk about is description, because in the summary we cannot mention all the work information, right? In the summary we can only mention the heading of the issue. So if we want to elaborate the issue much more deeper, if we want to add much more information, we can make a use of the description field. Or maybe while as a project lead, if we are assigning the work to the team members, as part of the work, if we want to attach any kind of documentations or images, we can make a use of the attachment field, where the attachment field will have the functionality to browse and upload the documents right from our system. And one of the important field is reporter, and it is also by default mandatory. I think if we want to make it optional, we can completely do that. So who is the reporter for an issue? Now if I am creating an issue by using my credentials, since I am creating the issue, I will be the owner of this particular issue. So by default, Jira admin 09 is being displayed in place of reporter. And if I want to update the reporter to someone's name, I can completely do that. And we will be talking about linked issues or fixed versions in the later session, not much important at the moment. And then we do have one of the important field called Assignee. Alright, now when the issue is being created by the project lead or the project admin or the scrum master, they will become the owner of the issue, right? Probably that particular issue will be assigned to the team member, to any developer or to any other team members. So always remember, the assignee is the person who is working on the issue. If I was assigned to one work and if I have to work for next 5 days, I will become the assignee of that particular issue. So Cecil is going to be the reporter. Maybe he might be in the position of Scrum Master as project lead. So this particular issue will be assigned to maybe David. So each and every day, David will be working on the issue. Or maybe if we have any problems or any conflicts while working on the issue, he will be directly reaching out to Cecile for any kind of clarifications. And also one of the important field that is needed or optional is priority. By default, Jira has given 5 priorities, which are highest, high, medium, low and lowest. Now as a team lead or as a project admin or even as a scrum master, if we are assigning the work to our team members, it is very much important to define how important that work is, whether is it of low priority or whether is it of medium or whether is it of high priority or highest priority. So Jira has given one of the system field called priority, where we can choose how important that particular work item is. We can define it so that the user or anyone in the future, if they want to track how many high priority tickets that they have worked so far, they will be able to pull the report by making a use of the field values. And then we talk about labels in the later session. And coming to the epic link. Alright, now while we are creating an issue in any of the project, it might be development, it might be task. For example, if that particular issue type or whether this particular work item, whatever that we are typing here, if it belongs to any particular heading, just like the epic, the parent issue. If we want to map this particular issue to its parent, we can make an use of one of the field called epic link. So out of which we can choose one of the epic where we want to map this particular work item, so that we can track that in the backlog in future anytime if we need it. And then coming to sprint, we will be discussing in the later session, so do not get confused about the sprint field at the moment. All you have to understand is that by default, whatever the fields that we are seeing, they can be called as system fields. So system fields are given by Jira and can be seen across the globe, maybe across all the Jira instances wherever that we go. So if we go to HCL, or if you go to Infosys, or even if you go to any organizations, whatever the fields that we are seeing here will be listed in the Jira software. And these are the system fields that are given by Jira by default and can be used across multiple domains, no matter what domain you belongs to. These are some mandatory fields, or maybe which are very much common and generalized to make an use of any project. Now we understand that development issue by default, it has taken one of the default screen given by Jira. Now we understand in the project settings how we can navigate to the issue tabs page and how we can see what are the issue tabs that we have in the project. As well as we have learned that for all the issue types page, or for all the projects in Jira, there will be a dedicated issue type scheme. So under this particular issue type scheme, we can add what issue types that we want for the project. In the same way, the navigation is exactly same until here. Right below the types, I can see one of the option called screens. So this particular page which we are seeing inside the project settings of the Suresh project, just like how we have the issue type scheme, for the screens page we will be having the issue type screen scheme. So it is going to be the heading for the entire page. So let me open the paint real quick. And I told the scheme is nothing but a container, right? Which means inside the container there will be some sort of configuration. For issue type schemes, the configuration is nothing but association of multiple issue types. In the same way, for each and every project there will be individual issue type scheme given by Jira whenever the project gets created. Sorry, not issue type scheme, issue type screen scheme. Alright, the heading of the screens page is going to be issue type screen scheme, which means for any project there will be only one issue type screen scheme, the main heading. And since it is going to be the Scrum project, the naming was defined as Scrum, and the very beginning it is going to be the project key. For Suresh project, for the Scrum project type, it is going to be the issue type screen scheme. Alright, now we understand that for screens topic there will be the major heading which is called Scrum issue type screen scheme. And what will be the configuration inside the screen scheme? Alright, coming back to the issue type screen scheme page, I can see the names of the issue types. So we will be having the issue type names here. Issue type 1, or maybe issue type 2, and so on. Maybe issue type 5, and so on. Always remember that, like we have discussed earlier, each and every issue type in Jira will have its own screen. So whatever the screen that we map to the issue type, and whatever the fields that we placed on that particular screen will be displayed while we are creating an issues. So before talking about the screen, I can see under this main particular heading there are two different names. I can see screen scheme and even I can see screen scheme. For all the issue types like story, epic, task and subtask, we do have the Scrum default screen scheme, and only for one of the issue type called bug we do have an individual screen scheme. And apart from that, if we are going to keep on adding multiple issue types to the project, it might be development, it might be feedback, or it might be anything else, any other issue type. Since there is a default button right before this particular screen scheme, that particular issue type will be mapped automatically to the development issue type. Because we have created the development issue type in Suresh project, by default the development issue type is mapped to the default screen scheme in the project. So always remember, under the issue type screen scheme there will be another second heading called screen scheme. So the issue types will be mapped to the screen scheme. So for each and every issue type in the project, it will be having a dedicated screen scheme. Alright, so multiple issue types, maybe 4 issue types making a use of one screen scheme, and issue type 5 like bug, it is making a use of another screen scheme. So what exactly is screen scheme in Jira? Alright, now as I elaborated the screen scheme, I can see some 3 different issue operations. I can see create issue, I can see edit issue, I can see view issue. Alright, so always remember, the definition or maybe the understanding of the screen scheme is nothing but, inside the screen scheme there will be 3 issue operations in Jira. They are going to be create issue screen, view issue screen, and then edit issue screen. Do not get confused, I'll be explaining what exactly are those. Alright, and let me come back to Jira. And forget about this page at one moment, and let me quickly click on create issue. Alright, let me choose the issue type development. Maybe I want to quickly create one of the issue so that I'll be able to show you what exactly that I mean when I called create issue, view issue and edit issue screens. Alright, so maybe in the project Suresh, there is one of the issue, develop the document related to project creation in Jira, which means we have to develop the documentation with very clear details on how to create a project in Jira, and the remaining aspects are elements that are needed. Imagine that we are creating the issue and we are on the create issue screen. So if I have a look at the create issue screen, I can see multiple fields onto it. I can see summary, I can see components, I can see attachment, description. Let me count the number of fields that we have on the create issue screen of the development issue type. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are totally 12 fields on the create issue screen. Now when I assign this particular issue to someone and when I click on create, an issue will be created, right? SUR-1. It is going to be the very first issue in the Suresh project. So let me click on view issue, which means I open the issue right now. I can see summary, whatever that we have typed on the create issue screen. I can see description, I can see assignee, reporter, labels, priority. I can see all the 12 fields while I am viewing the issue. At the same time, now there is some summary that was given. So let me change the summary to XYZ. And imagine that there is some description given, and let me change it to something. And there was assignee field, let me change it to something. And there is priority field, let me change it to something. Which means I can see all the 12 fields, and I will be able to edit all the 12 fields. So always remember that in Jira we do have three issue operations, which are create issue screen, which are and view issue screen, and finally edit issue screen. Always remember, on the create issue screen, if I have 12 fields, while we are creating the issue, we can see those 12 fields. And if I create a second screen, maybe if I do not populate all the 12 fields, and if I display only 10 fields on the view issue screen. So I as a project admin, I just feel two fields are not important for the team members to view. Let me hide two fields while we are viewing the issue, which means those two fields cannot be viewed on the view issue screen while we are viewing the issue. And finally, we do have one of the issue operation called edit. So on the edit issue screen, I want to place only 5 different fields. I want to remove assignee, I want to remove the reporter, I want to remove the summary, I want to remove the description. When we remove all the fields, and when we place only the mandatory fields on the edit issue screen, the users will not be able to edit the summary because this particular field is not present in the edit issue screen. This particular field is not present on the edit issue screen. This particular field is not present on the edit issue screen, which means as a project admin, I am deciding what fields needs to be seen while we are creating the issue so that we can fill all the information in those fields. And once the issue has been created and it was assigned to someone, what fields needs to be viewed on this particular screen? We can call it as a view issue screen. And in the third screen, we can decide what fields needs to be only edited by the user or anyone. Based upon that, whatever the fields that we populate only on that particular edit issue screen, the remaining fields will not be able to edit since they are not present on the edit issue screen. And that is the reason we do have 3 issue operations in Jira, like create, view and edit. And these 3 issue screens, these 3 screens will be mapped under the screen scheme. So always remember that there are 3 important elements in order to have a screen for an individual issue type. So step number 1, we have to create a screen, and let's place some 5 fields onto it. And step number 2, let's create a screen scheme. And inside this particular screen scheme, we have to map while creating what screen that we want, while viewing what screen we want to place, while editing what screen we want to map. So imagine while creating, I want to see 5 fields. While viewing, I want to see those same 5 fields. And while editing, I want to see the same 5 fields. I want to edit all the 5 fields. So while creating, viewing, and while editing, I want to map the same screen to all the 3 issue operations. So we map the issue operations, mapping the issue operations. And in the very final step, since we will be having only one issue type screen scheme, which is the main heading, we have to navigate to the projects, issue type screen scheme, and then we have to, just give me one moment, map the issue type to the screen scheme. Alright, so let me quickly open the Word and let me start typing the ticket. And maybe it might be confusing at the very first time, but once we try to do some 2 or 3 tickets in the screens, it will be very much easier. Now imagine that we got one of the ticket from the project lead of Suresh project. They are stating that, hi team, we would like to have a new screen in Suresh project for the development issue type. So they clearly told that they would like to have a new screen, and they have given the project name as Suresh, and they even mentioned for what issue type that they would like to have a new screen. It is going to be development issue type, and they have given we would like to have the below fields. Alright, they want summary, they want description, they want assignee, they want reporter, and finally they want priority. Alright, and they do not mention any other details, which means we can directly understand, since they do not mention anything. While creating, all the 5 fields needs to be visible on the create issue screen. And once the issue has been created, while viewing, we should be able to see all these 5 fields. And in the same way, all these 5 fields can be edited by the user who is working on the issue. So this is the requirement. So now we are going to be the Jira admin, and we have to perform this activity. And imagine that we are on the home page. Let's see how we can do the analysis from our part, and how are we going to fulfill the requirement. Now as per the ticket, they are talking about the project called Suresh. So let's navigate to the project. Now they are talking about a new screen. So let me navigate to the project settings, and we are talking about the screen. So let me navigate to the screen section. Let me just quickly have a look, maybe a glance on the issue type screen scheme, so that I can keep that in mind. And now they are talking about an issue type called development. Now as soon as I see the issue type development, I currently see that this particular issue type has been mapped to one of the screen scheme, which means in this particular screen scheme there are 3 screens. If I open one of the screen, and if I come here, I clearly see that there are 12 different fields onto this particular screen. So based upon the requirement, if I remove all the remaining fields, maybe I do have the remove option here, what will happen? We can see only the 5 screens. But always remember that in Jira, before we make any changes, we have to make sure whatever that we are touching is not mapped to any other things. Now we are talking about the development issue type. For the development issue type, currently this particular screen scheme that we are seeing, so we want to make changes inside this particular screen scheme. So whatever the changes that we make inside this particular screen scheme or inside this particular screen will be impacted to story issue type, will be impacted to epic, will be impacted to task, and will be impacted to subtask, which is very dangerous, right? So we should not make any changes directly just like that. But if we get a requirement for bug, since this particular configuration is only being shared by bug, we can directly go ahead and do whatever fields that we want to see. We can remove all the unnecessary fields, and we can add only the 5 fields. Now coming to development, we cannot do that, because whatever the changes that we make inside will be impacted to the remaining issue types as well. Now what is the solution? So like I told earlier in the paint, step number 1, I want to create a new screen with 5 fields onto it. Whatever given in the requirement, I can create one of the screen. And step number 2, we have to create screen scheme. Just like how we do have the screen scheme heading, the new screen scheme heading should come here, and inside that screen scheme we are going to map the issue operations, the new screen. And finally, by making an use of the issue type screen scheme, we are going to map the issue type to the newly created screen scheme. It might be very confusing. I want everyone to give it a try today, so that in tomorrow's session we will be talking about some 2 to 3 examples on the screens again. So now let me perform the activity slowly. Alright, now let me open a new duplicate tab. I want to keep this page as it is. And let me close this one. So at the end of the requirement, I should be able to see a new screen scheme name here. And under that new screen scheme, I want to see the development issue type. And when I elaborate the new screen scheme, I want to see the issue operations. While creating, while viewing, and while editing, I want to place only one screen. So step number 1, we have to create a new screen in Jira. Now as per the ticket, the project admin of the Suresh project have raised the ticket. So we as a Jira admin, we have to create a new screen and we have to perform the activity. Now we clearly know if we want to create an issue type, we navigated to issues in the global level. In the same way, if we want to create a screen scheme, or if we want to do any changes, we have to make it in the global level. So only Jira admins can do that. So by making a use of the admin coggle, let me click on issues. Now right below the issue types, if I scroll down a little bit, I can see one of the option called screens. In the screens, like we have discussed, there are 3 different headings: step number 1, step number 2, and step number 3. Step number 1, we have to create a new screen. So inside the screens tab, now currently whatever the screens that we have in Jira will be there. So forget about these things at the moment. Let me directly click on add screen. So we are going to create a new screen in the project called Suresh. So I'm making a use of the project key so that the terminology will be very good. And now we are creating a screen, right? And what we are going to give the name of the screen. For what issue type? It is going to be for the development issue type. So step number 1, the project key. Step number 2, the issue type. And step number 3, we are going to create a screen. Since we are making a use of same screen while creating, viewing, and editing, I do not mention any terms like create screen or maybe view screen or edit screen. I just mentioned the term screen because we are going to make an use of same screen for all the 3 issue operations. Let me take the copy of the screen name. I have given the name to the screen and let me click on add. A screen was created successfully in the Jira Cloud instance. Now let me open that particular screen by searching a screen created and let me open that. Alright, a screen is nothing but an open white page at the very beginning. It might be a template or it might be a form. And then as per the definition we know, a screen is an arrangement of fields, right? Which means on the screen all we can see is fields. Coming back to the ticket, we want to add these fields: summary, description, assignee, reporter, and priority. Remember, all these fields are system fields given by Jira. So whenever we start typing the field name, it will be automatically populated. So let me quickly search for the field and let me add them onto the screen. I have added summary. I'll search for description, click on enter. Description has been added. And then let me add assignee, reporter, and finally priority. Assignee, a reporter, and finally priority. Now we have successfully created step number 1. We have created a screen in Jira. And it is not mapped to any screen scheme. It is not mapped to any project so far. Step number 1 completed. Let me come back to the paint. Alright. we have to create a screen and we added 5 fields. This activity has been completed. Step number 2, we have to create a screen scheme, and inside the screen scheme we have to map the issue operations. Alright, coming back to the global page, right below the screens, step number 2, we do have screen schemes. Let me click on screen scheme, and here we can see the list of all the screen schemes that are available so far in Jira. We do not want to bother about that. All we can do is we want to create a new screen scheme. Alright, here I want to give the naming in the same way. For Suresh project, I gave the project key name, and we are going to create a screen scheme for the development issue type. So let me type the term development. And what exactly that we are going to create right now, it is going to be screen scheme. So let me take the copy of that name and paste it. Alright, so inside the screen scheme we clearly know that there will be issue operation mapping, right? Create, view and edit. So default screen we can able to select from this option, which means whatever the screen that we place it here, if we do not map the issue operation, those operations will be able to take the default screen. So we clearly know that while creating, while viewing and while editing, we want to place only one screen, and that screen name is going to be Suresh development screen, where there are 5 fields onto it. So as soon as I click on add, automatically while creating, this particular screen will be mapped. While editing, this screen will be mapped. While viewing, this screen will be mapped. So for all the 3 issue operations, the default screen is applicable at the moment. In tomorrow's session, I will be showing how we can place different screens for different issue operations. For the moment, I want to click on add. A screen scheme was created successfully. So step number 2 completed. We have created a screen scheme and the issue operation mapping was done successfully. Since we do have only screen, we just mapped it directly to a default screen. And finally, we no need to create an issue type screen scheme, because for the project there will be only one issue type screen scheme, so that we have to navigate to the project's issue type screen scheme, and then inside that we have to map the development issue type, and then we have to map the newly created screen scheme. Alright, now in the global level, step number 3, after screen scheme we do have step number 3, issue type screen schemes. We do not want to create a new issue type screen scheme, because for any project there will be only one issue type screen scheme, so that if I have a look, I can see the project name Suresh, and I can see what issue type screen scheme the Suresh project is being used at the moment. So inside this particular issue type screen scheme, I want to map my issue type to the screen scheme. Currently, the bug issue type is making a use of an individual screen scheme. Apart from bug, there is one more screen scheme, the default one. It is currently being used by Epic, Story, Task, and even the development issue type. So what I want to do, I want to individually map the development issue type to the screen scheme. So let me click on associate an issue type with a screen scheme. And here, out of all the issue types that I have in the Jira instance, I want to choose that issue type called development as per my requirement. And then we have to map the newly created screen scheme which we created for the development. As I can see, SUR development screen scheme. The naming is always very much important, and it will be very easy if we use the right terminology. Let me click on add. As we can see, for the project Suresh, under this particular issue type screen scheme, currently the issue type development is making an use of its own screen scheme. The bug issue type is making a use of its own screen scheme. Apart from these two, whatever the rest issue types that we have, like epic story task, it is making a use of the default screen scheme. So as a Jira admin, we have done our part in the global level. Now even we have to make sure the same in the project level as well, right? Whether are they reflecting properly or not. So I'm coming back to the very first tab where I did not close, where we are in the Suresh project in the project settings screens page. In the project level, initially the development issue type is making a use of the default screen scheme. Now we have mapped the development issue type to the new screen scheme. So let me quickly do a page refresh and let's observe the changes. Alright, now I have clicked refresh. As I can see, everything was similar like before except the development issue type. I can see the development issue type, and this particular development issue type is mapped to SUR development screen scheme. And if I elaborate this particular screen scheme, while creating, while viewing and while editing, there is only one screen which is called SUR development screen, which we have created and added only 5 fields. Now even we confirm the same in the project level. Now it is the time for us to give a try while creating an issue. In the Suresh project, for the issue type development, testing development issue type, just for alright, I can see summary, I can see description, I can see assignee, I can see reporter, and finally I can see priority. Only the 5 fields whatever that we have placed was populated while we are creating the issue. It based upon the issue operations. Now when I click on create, an issue has been created. Let me open the issue. Now we are on the view issue screen, so that I can see the summary, I can see the description, I can see the assignee field, I can see reporter field, as well as I can see priority, which means I can view all the 5 fields, because in the backend for the view issue operation we have mapped the same screen where there are 5 fields. In the same way, I can edit summary and I can edit the description field. I can change the assignee. I can even change the reporter. I can change the priority, which means even while editing we have mapped the same screen where there are 5 fields. So all the 5 fields that are on the edit screen are editable. And this is how in Jira we can create a screen and we can map it to an issue type in the project. I know it might be very confusing at the very first time, but as we go and started to solve some few examples, it will be very much easier. All you have to understand is that the concept, and all you have to understand is that step number 1, step number 2 and step number 3. These are the things that we have learned. And coming to the definitions, a screen is an arrangement of fields, and this is the definition of screen. And coming to the screen scheme, screen scheme is a place where we can map issue operations with screens. Alright, and we do have 3 issue operations in Jira. They are create issue screen, view issue screen, and edit issue screen. And these are the 3 issue operations that we have in Jira. Alright, finally, what is an issue type screen scheme? Issue type screen scheme is a place where we can map. The heading itself says where we can map issue type to a screen scheme. So it is very much easy for us to understand what exactly we can do inside an issue type screen scheme. And always remember, for a project, there will be only one issue type screen scheme. Alright, in tomorrow's class, I want to pick one of the example that are related to screens, maybe one or two. Then we clearly understand while creating I want to see 5, while viewing I want to see 5, but while editing I want to edit only 2 fields, not the 3 fields. So how are we going to do that? And we also will learn much more about the shade information. I can see shade by one project, right? But in organizations, we can sometimes see shade by 30 projects, shade by 40 projects, or maybe shade by 5 projects, something like that. We clearly understand what exactly a shading means in Jira.